Panharmonicon presents a podcast.
All right, so it's December 19th. I stumbled across the post that is the inspiration for today's episode, and it's a meme captioned, "My dreams when I take melatonin." And it's accompanied by a rather absurd but kid-friendly chase scene between a small group of middle-aged government agents and an 11-year-old boy in a wheelchair. Now, the caption alone grips me because, melatonin or not, my dreams are also wildly absurd, so I feel like the universe is reaching out to say, here's some weirdness for your soul. And I'm like, bet, let's get it. We're about to do this. So let's get an 11-year-old boy in a wheelchair with a small, otherworldly creature in his lap. So if you can, picture a malnourished, hairless koala bear with Slenderman-esque limbs and humanoid eyes that are the size of headlights. And it's unsettling, but it's also, it's kind of cute. And as I said earlier, the pair are being pursued by a number of average-looking middle-aged men in suits. It starts in a suburban neighborhood, cats and mice barreling through private fences, clotheslines, etc. But within seconds, they find themselves on a very busy thoroughfare. Now, the kid is trying so hard to escape that he rides straight into oncoming traffic. And I want you guys to remember, as I'm describing this, that he is in a wheelchair. So I want you to think about what you would do if you were in a car and you're driving down the street and a kid in a wheelchair with an alien creature on his lap is driving straight towards you. Okay. Now, the agents are so desperate they follow without a second thought. Cars are dodging left and right, coming dangerously close and hitting everyone, when the kid has this brilliant idea, like, why don't I just take a move from Marty McFly's book and latch onto this pickup truck? So nice. But remember how I said these men were average looking? And I meant that. Like, truly, their mediocrity is only superficial because underneath the hood are physiques powered by the super soldier serum. And I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense to me, because how else would they manage to keep up with a truck moving 35 miles per hour? That's right, the agents managed to stay hot on their trail, chasing them all the way to the town's shopping district. So flabbergasted, I send this over to Dame, who provides some additional context. And apparently, Paul Rudd would troll Conan O'Brien using clips from this movie, Mac and Me. With that, my partner in crime adds that he wants to see it, if for nothing else than to understand how the movie arrives at the infamous scene weaponized by one of the goats. Pass the idea over to our friend and producer, tips the temple, and here we are. And I have to say, I'm so glad we landed on this one, Dame. This episode will be a little different in that it's actually the first time discussing a film we hadn't seen before. Most of the Batman films we probably actually saw together, if we're being real here. So get cozy or start up those errands, however you listen. We're just honored you're here with us. So let's dive into Mac and Me.
All right, I kind of left a little bit of a pause because I know you were going to start like that, but I didn't know how we were going to go into it after you started like that. So I kind of left that pause so that we can have this little part to get cut out just in case it needs to actually be cut out.
Or you just leave it in.
You know what? We can leave it in. It's natural.
Give them that raw shit.
So, Panharmonicon Studios presents a podcast. This is Damon.
And I'm Farron.
And much like Farron said before, we are doing Mac and Me. It depends upon how you feel about this movie. It is either a so bad it's good movie, or it is a so bad it just actually sucks movie. Yeah. And it can go either way, really. It is on the fine line. It's right directly on that fence.
Flirts.
And I think part of that is why it has kind of gained the cult status it has to this day, which, I mean, as we all know, just like Manos, movies can be horrible and still have cult status.
Yeah.
So, like Frank said, he came upon that scene. And that was a scene that I had not seen before, because the only scene I've ever seen, if you've ever seen Paul Rudd on a Conan O'Brien show, has only shown the scene in which the protagonist in a wheelchair proceeds to careen down a hill, fall down a ravine into water, and be looked upon by our dual antagonist in Mac.
What'd you call him?
Our doer antagonist.
Okay.
The second one.
I thought I heard like an antagonist, and then just please continue.
Like you said, this is going to be a little bit of a different one because this is a movie that we haven't seen before. And I also kind of wanted to do some things that we hadn't done before. So I wanted to say that Mac and Me was a movie released in 1988. It was produced by, a couple of people, but mostly we want to focus on R.J. Lewis. It was directed by Stuart Raphael, and funnily enough, the music was done by Alan Silvestri.
Who's
Alan Silvestri? Has done a bunch of movies, but ones that you'd probably recognize the most is he made the Avengers theme and did a lot of the musical work for the early Marvel movies.
Yeah, you said that name for a second there I was like, I feel like that's familiar because I have Portals is one of the songs in my songs on Spotify. So he
so he made all of the goofy Danny Elfman-esque. I can't even say Danny Elfman-esque. It's the Weebles and Wobbles.
Weebles and Wobbles
of this movie.
I'm sorry. I wonder if he still includes that on his resume, like when he submitted it for Avengers.
He probably has. I mean, he's done better things. Mac and Me's probably at the lower end of his resume, but he probably still puts it on there. And one of the things I wanted to get at, and I kind of brought this up when we were talking about this movie, before we started talking about this movie. The movie had a budget of $13 million and only made $6.4 million in the box office. So, like I said, didn't even make half of what it was supposed to make, which should tell you something about deciding to make a movie that no one asked for, and you only got the amount that you got, probably because, I mean, I was only 1 year old at that time, so I can't tell you the box office of what 1988 was like. Yeah. But I can't think of too many killer movies that were coming out, and probably not around the same time that Mac and Me were coming out. And it was designed to get kids to come to the movie theater, which, of course, you're going to get kids into the movie theater. Yeah. So the reason I brought up R.J. Lewis in particular is because he is known prior to Mac and Me for producing McDonald's commercials. Apparently, he was their big commercial guy. He also was big into their charitable side, Ronald McDonald House charities, which is great, and it's nice that he was a big part of that. He had visions for Mac and Me that no one else had. Literally no one else except for the other two producers, William B. Kerr and Mark Damon had.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Hey, so I'm curious because, and I know we'll get into it here in a little bit, but once we do get into the movie, describing certain scenes, it'll become apparent that one of the executive producers produced commercials for McDonald's. Mm-hmm. It's very evident. And I think that it was actually one of the notes that we were talking about this a few days ago, and it was one of the notes that I had put down. Outside of this movie, potentially, is it just a commercial for the 80s? Is it just encapsulates the zeitgeist of the time, but also just the McDonald's piece of it? But I'm curious. So the other two producers that you mentioned, though, do you have like background on them? I'm just kind of curious if there's anything from their background
that leads into this.
And then
nothing.
Okay.
In fact, the only other person that has information on them is Mark Damon himself, and his name isn't even Mark Damon. He was born Alan Harris. I don't know why he called himself Mark Damon, but he went by Mark Damon until he passed away. He was an actor turned rich guy turned producer. As he said, as Farron said, we'll get into it, but do understand that Mac and me has more connotation than you would think it does. If you've never seen this movie, I actually do implore you to watch it. We're going to go over everything. It is going to be spoiled, but if you've not actually seen it, you cannot truly be spoiled, because this is a visual. It's a visual like train wreck
in the most spectacular way possible.
And it's like, as much as you think you can imagine something, you'll see it and be like, no, I didn't imagine that. That was what I was thinking when you brought that up. And we might as well just start from the beginning. Which
are you sure? Did you?
We'll go over more as we get through this.
Yeah, I mean, if you want
to, we start off on a planet. No clue what this planet is. It could be a moon, because the backdrop, that is clearly a drawing, is like a planet that has rings. So you think, oh, it's Saturn. Saturn does have moons, so maybe it is one of the moons of Saturn.
Yeah.
Who knows? Because we don't know. All we do know is that for whatever reason, this very sparse, rocky mound of ground seems to only house like 4 people. You never see any other person, thing, anything. You just see these 4 things. And these 4 things, much like he said, actually, you said that in your intro there, but they're like the armpit dude from All Real Monsters if he had a head. Like the dude who had he had to hold the eyes up.
Yeah.
Like they're like him, but like skinny and tall.
You know what? Yeah. No, okay. Because I was, for whatever reason, I kept picturing its body as maroon and like triangle-ish, and I was like, that's the other one. That's the other monster. But no, I see. I mean, the smallest one.
The smallest one, yes. Mac is very skinless koala, mixed with like that like this may be I don't want to say this aging me because this is weird for me. Those squeeze toys where like when you squeeze it and like the eyes pop out, but they had that like kazoo mouth type of thing, and they make the noise. Like he's like that. He's a bunch of things. E.T. he is not. No, E.T. is what R.J. Lewis wanted.
E.T. is what he wanted. Yeah, I was gonna say is what he wanted.
E.T. he is not. He doesn't look like E.T. He doesn't move like E.T. He does not. So sometimes Mac is a puppet, and sometimes Mac is a person in a suit.
Yes.
When Mac is a person in a suit, he is one of the creepiest little things running around.
Yes.
When Mac is a puppet, he is lifeless. They don't make a good distinction on when one of the two things are going to happen. They are very interchanged, but regardless, we're jumping ahead. Now we see this seemingly a nuclear family on a different planet. We have a mother holding Mac. We have what I thought it was like just like another person, but it turned out to be the daughter. And then we have the dad. And the dad is a nightmare. He is a walking nightmare. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for the movie being so funnily bad, I think he might have actually scared kids, because
I can see that.
He unlike Mac is always a person in a suit.
Yes. A very tall person.
He is a very tall person, and the mask thing is some type of like animatronic, I think. And he must have been instructed to move as if he was in like a abstract painting come to life, because his movement, it's so weird. I wish I knew who the suit actor was. I should have looked that up, because I would have loved to interview him and said, what were you thinking in your head when you decided to put that suit on?
Yeah.
And someone told you to move.
Because
his movement is just it's oh God, it's just so
there he is. There he is. What would his name even be?
I would like to think it was like MacDad. Whoa. Mars? They were supposed to be on Mars?
I had a feeling that's what they were. Jack David Walker. Absolutely no.
Man, I don't know what any of these things are that he was in. Anyway, so Jack Walker, I need to... Wish I could talk to Mr. JDW and say, how did you come up with this method of moving that was almost exactly human, but just barely off? Just so much to just really just get that uncanny valley going and make it feel like you could actually be a real alien person that just came upon this planet. But
my skin crawl.
It did. when you first said it, I was like, yeah, it's very unsettling.
It made my stomach chill like that.
But they're chilling on apparently Mars. The father, Mars' father, Jack David Walker himself, goes over and he starts like tapping on a rock, and then he kind of knocks on it, and then he pulls out what looks like a bendy straw, proceeds to stick it into the ground surface, and then just starts drinking. And you're like, what? It's just sipping on that earth, that Mars juice, I guess. You're like, well, why is he sipping on this Mars juice? And then like
Mars juice? I
think the daughter also starts sipping on some Mars juice.
Does she?
And you kind of think to yourself, like, because they look like they're in like a desert. And you're like, are they just need like just to find like moisture from anything or
something? Like
it looks you like, because they're not near a house, like like any type of cave or like they're just out and about, and you're like, what is going on in this movie already? And then more craziness immediately happens, because a Mars lander from NASA just appears. They should have seen it. I mean, you would think you would have seen it coming like a while away, but it gets right up on them before they're like, oh, this thing's landing. And it does Mars things, like Mars looking around for stuff. Gadgets and gizmos start coming out of it. It's trying to get some rocks. And so this Martian family goes over to it, and at this point, I guess knowing ahead of time, do they somehow already kind of know what it is?
I didn't take it that to mean that they did. I thought they were sort of in the dark.
Like they were in the dark, because he throws the rock at it. And he's like, oh, okay. But then they just walk up on it, and they're like, first off, Dad is like as tall as, like, I think he's taller than it. Everyone's like, it's much smaller than you think. When it lands, you think it's a spaceship.
Yeah. You think it's like that spaceship that, like, Frieza.
Yeah, you think it's
Namek
like, you're like, oh, like they about to get like ran up on.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, I guess it's just a tiny survey thing. So they start kind of helping it out, giving it some Martian rocks to look at. Amazingly, no Mars juice comes out of these rocks. I guess that must be like in the Martian ground itself. And then all of a sudden, a vacuum comes out, and it somehow sucks them up. Their dad's at least 6'7".
At least. At least.
And not skinny. I mean, he's kind of skinny, but he's not like, he's not real thin.
He's got the torso of a potato.
He does.
He's got kind of like and to be honest with you, I think except for the mom, they're all potato torsos. But his limbs are just some of the most Jack Skellington-esque things you might see in your life.
They're like children's doodles brought to life. It's so weird.
Yeah, dude. That's like, what did SpongeBob call him? Was it Doodle Buddy?
Yeah.
It was something
like that.
SpongeBob.
It's so weird. But somehow, and when you see the inside of the vacuum, that's the part that gets me. Because, like, what looks like essentially like a duct comes out. But then, like, they show for some reason the inside of the duct. And it's like a tiny nozzle. Mm-hmm. It's a tiny nozzle. Just sucks the entire family up. They have no chance. Sucked up. It relaunches itself. And then we're brought to... I can't say Area 51 because it can't be Area 51.
That I would have to imagine that was not an official. It almost kind of didn't even seem NASA. Like you can just kind of assume that it's NASA because of the technology that they're using, I guess, at the time. Because NASA typically they have access to the most cutting edge technology in vacuums, right? So that's why they're going to have the best vacuums to suck up a 6'7" man and his whole family. His whole family. And that, before we kind of get to them letting back, I do want to emphasize just how bizarre it is of an idea for these people to make this movie. And they say, well, how do they get to Earth? And they're like, well, clearly the only option is for a vacuum to come out of this Mars lander and literally suck them up. It didn't even open like a door or a ramp for them to walk in.
The
with,
thing
like,
that would have been the most logical would have just been right? A door.
Yes. No, but they.
Why? Why vacuum? Sorry, why vacuum?
You know what? You ever know like some companies like with like how they do their budget. They do their budget in this way where it's like, hey, like I'm budgeted $1 million for this department this year. And let's say they did a really good job of cutting back on spending it. And like, you know, you make it through 95% of the fiscal year. And you're like, wow, like we did so well in our budget that $1 million, like there's still $200,000 that we haven't even spent. And we're almost at the end of the year. But instead of just saying, hey, like, you gave us a budget of $1 million. We use $800,000, and like being afraid of, okay, well maybe next year you get $800,000 because now we realize that your department only costs this much to operate. Then you just start going wild and you just start spending all that extra money because rather than getting your budget lowered, you're like, well, how can I fill this space? It feels like in Mac and Me they just had some extra money and they said, let's just throw this at a vacuum cleaner NASA machine. There's like, with the next movie, I don't want them to lower my budget. I don't want them to give me $12 million. So I got to use all of the 13.
Yeah. I could see that. That 13 million.
Like,
I don't know where that 13 million went.
I don't know either.
It must have gone to mostly to that opening scene because the rest of that movie does not use that $13 million budget.
Well,
there is another part that maybe uses a large part of that budget. But, oh my goodness. So they end up at a black site. I'm not going to say Area 51. And the reason I'm not going to say Area 51 is because it is established during this part of the movie that the protagonist, Eric, and his family are traveling to California from Chicago. They're traveling by car. And you could say, well, maybe they went through and somehow passed Area 51 on their way. But I'm pretty sure that Area 51 is pretty far out in the desert and not along any type of like major roads. Yeah. Because we find out once the they get to the black site and all the NASA scientists start tinkering around with the lander, they start to hear noises. And This one scientist is like, these readings just aren't adding up. They aren't adding up, Doc. The main scientist is like, well, you need to just run them again because they should be adding up. And he's like, I've run every test imaginable. They ain't adding up.
That guy was very visibly frustrated.
You would think they were real frustrated because he was getting heated about those tests not adding up. And that other dude was like, you just need to run them again. I don't know what to tell you. They need to be adding up. He was like, dude, I've run photons, neutrons, macrons, gorons, voltrons. Every test that I can, I've run. They ain't adding up. Meanwhile, FBI, CIA, just men in black. We don't know who these dudes are ever aligned with, but they just pop up.
Men in more of like a
men in gray, and
like
mauve. Yeah. Beige dudes in suits show up, and we know they're supposed to be like government dudes, but we don't know what alphabet boys they belong to. We just know that they are around, and everybody is kind of congratulating and high-fiving themselves for this Mars landing. And I can't imagine they're FBI because they don't know they have aliens yet. They just assume that they've got some rocks to study. Mm-hmm. And also, the Martian lander only grabbed like a handful of rocks at best. So the inside of that machine must have just been everything to get it to land and take off. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't know. I mean, what? Do we have that technology? To just have something seemingly take off from Earth. And then solo take off by itself from Mars back to Earth.
Oddly, now that you mention it, when you think about it, it's kind of just like a drone. It was just like somebody had like a super like far range drone, and they were just able to like lift off. Because you're right, there was like really no something like that. Like that's a big deal, and it would just kind of seemed like
that was just running the mill. That's what we do. That's what we do in 1988. But so they start to hear noises. Dudes flipping out about these tests. They finally kind of pinpoint where all the sound is happening, and then kind of a mini explosion takes place, and all of a sudden, throughout the smoke, the Mac family appears. Lil Mac himself, Mac sis, Mac mom, Mac dad. They kind of get separated for some reason because I guess Mac comes out last, and everyone is kind of like. They're not freaking out yet because, smartly enough, they are scientists, they are geeks, and they're like, we got some aliens. Let's figure out what's going on. Dude's kind of like, I knew these tests. I knew something was up with these tests. And the other dude's like, yeah, we got some aliens, I see. He was just, I couldn't tell if the dude with the gray hair was supposed to be sinister or if he just was supposed to be mellow. He didn't act very well, so I didn't know. He didn't emote. I didn't know what his goals were.
I think we find out a little bit. I don't want to spoil it yet, but not the scientist, the gray hair scientist dude. You're talking about like the
tall dude,
white guy who was saying like run the test again, and the guy just kept saying
these tests.
I've done these tests.
Like that dude was just kind of like, yeah, we got some scientists. Yeah. We got some aliens here.
It was pretty ambiguous, but I think that was, I think that was intentional.
But so the Mac family separate and they kind of just go off on their own. Oddly enough, in this one instance, they aren't curious anymore. They are the ones freaked out, and they need to get out. And then we run into one of the first time that Mac becomes a person in a suit, when his little feet get to shuffling and he goes flying out of that place at warp speed.
I didn't like that shot. It's not the entire scene. I didn't like that shot. That shot made me feel uncomfortable.
He looked like it was immediate. You were like, that's a person. That's a person.
Oh, 100%. 100%. As soon as you saw that, you're like, yeah, that's a real person this time.
And he's just
so fast.
shuffling on feet. Meanwhile, Mac Dad, Mac Mom, and Mac Sis go a different way, and proceed to begin to use powers that I don't know what the powers are. Mac Dad puts both hands up against a slider door, that like one of those big metal slider doors that go down, shutter doors, I think they call them. Sparks fly, and a hole is created, but the hole isn't the size of him. The hole is the size of just like if a boulder went through it. And it just, the rest of that door goes away, and they go off into the night. Meanwhile, I guess because they saw him use those powers, they decide not to follow Mac Dad. And instead they said, yo, Mac, little feet shuffling, he's the one we got to go after.
Yeah. And
he goes until he gets hit by a car. Mm-hmm. And then it turns into a cartoon again, where he becomes Gumby and just starts. The aliens are indestructible as far as I know. I don't think anything can kill them. I actually don't think anything can kill them.
Yeah. That's how they survive on Mars, apparently. I like, he literally turns into like, it almost kind of like a wad of gum.
Yeah.
It almost kind of reminds me, I guess, of like Darwin from X-Men. His body just adapts to whatever he needs to be for that occasion to survive. His body just changes into it.
Yeah. It's just, but like more so, I don't, like Darwin typically like it'll be a reflection of things. Like if suddenly he got onto the sun, for instance, his body would adapt and he'd probably turn into like something close to like the Human Torch or something like that. Or if he were placed in like the vacuum of space, he would suddenly gain the ability to breathe in space. Mac turned into a rubber band and proceeded to slingshot across a highway that is apparently right next to this black site, filled with people.
Yes.
And people are kind of driving. Yeah. So there's no like real like street that civilians would be on. But this is a very busy street right next to this black site. And he's slinging. People have to be dying at this point because cars are just swerving, hitting each other. And then he hits a particular car. And the son and the dad in the car are screaming. They're trying to like figure out how to drive with this now like Stretch Armstrong toy strapped across the front of it, the windshield. The redhead child in that scene happens to be the kid from Salute Your Shorts in Terminator 2.
Oh my god! Oh, dude, I didn't even. Oh, John Connor's.
Mm-hmm.
John Connor's
friend. Yep.
Holy shit, dude! That would have only been like 3 years
before.
3
years
later.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm sorry. Yeah, that just.
So I thought to myself, I was like, I'm pretty sure the main character is supposed to be some kid in a wheelchair. Is this going to be the main character? The Salute Your Short kid? No. Because they kind of get in an accident, and then dad has to jump out. They look back, and there is just chaos. And it's crazy. I'm going to tell you guys now listening, I don't have notes for this. All of this has been coming off the top of my head. This is how much I remember this movie, because how insane it was. The dad looks back and he says, "Are you okay?" to this lady who walks out, who then turns to another pair of people and they're like, "Fire!" But they're pulling a person out of the car. There's no fire.
Mm-hmm.
We look back at the main car. Before turning back to that car, the man that was being pulled out is now on fire.
Yes.
Like, yes. How did he get caught? Where'd the fire come from? I knew somebody yelled fire, but they didn't show any fire.
They had to use all $13 million in that budget. That like it. Yeah. Yeah, now that you say that, like I remember that because I was like, I kind of like brushed it off. It was one of the first things that I kind of brushed off, and I said, okay, I'm gonna let that slide. But I didn't understand how it got to that point. It was like, well, where did he come from? And I almost didn't even think it was the same guy who got pulled out because I was like, well, he wasn't on fire.
I didn't, because he was not on fire. They were just pulling him out. The next thing I know, he is engulfed in flames.
Yes, and someone conveniently had a fire extinguisher in their car, and they're spraying this guy
spraying down. Like, what is going on?
That's just as a note for everyone out there: always keep a spare fire extinguisher in your car. You never know when you'll need it. You'll never know when somebody's going to spontaneously combust after an accident.
And you need to be watching out for the fires. Call them ahead of time. If you just know that a fire might take place, just yell fire. Because it may just happen. And somebody needs to have a fire extinguisher. But we now are brought upon our protagonist and his family. Eric, as they are rolling in a gray Nissan something van. And the only reason I believe it is a Nissan is because I am almost 100% sure that it is the model used by Japanese toy maker Takara, who created the Diaclone toys. Diaclone eventually became Transformers. And that specific van was used as the model for Ironhide and Ratchet. That's why I know it's a Japanese van, because I am almost 100% certain that it is that exact van.
Damn, okay.
It is an ugly van.
That's what I was going to say, because I was going to recommend, I was going to say, Andrew, you might want to look at this van. It's one of the ugliest vans in the history of vans. It was like...
it is an ugly van.
It's so ugly. Like...
I mean, looking at that one, it almost looks like the 18 van, but it's a goofy looking van.
Somehow, I don't know, like they made it look so much worse. In that
we're in there, and we are greeted by Eric, his older brother Chris, I believe.
It was Michael.
Michael, I'm sorry, it is Michael. I think the actor's name might be Chris. And the mother. And the fun begins at this point.
I mean, the fun's been going. It's been fun. It's been fun.
But now we're at the meat of the fun.
Yeah.
So Mac, it turns out, somehow bounced his bouncy self into their van, and Eric is in the back. We find out that the family's been moving. They're headed to California, where the mom can start her new job. She hasn't worked in 10 years, apparently. They're out to make a new start for themselves. And we get our second product placement of the movie. And it's definitely the second main one. The first one we see is a redhead dude from Salute Your Shorts is eating Skittles.
That's right. Okay.
And Skittles do come back.
Yes.
And it dawned on me that Skittles, even though they don't use them, is their Reese's Pieces equivalent from E.T. Because Reese's Pieces is the candy that's used in E.T. And in fact, before I even knew most of what I know about this movie, I actually thought to myself, was Pepsi like in any way a part of like E.T.? And maybe that was why they used Coke so much. But no. In fact, I think during the time that E.T. came out, Coke was a sponsor, I think a partner for them. I think like you could get like E.T. tickets and like getting Coke or something like that. But here's a crazy kicker. In 1988, oddly enough, in 1988 was the VHS release for E.T. And Pepsi partnered with E.T. for that release. There's no way that they knew about that in 87 when they were making a movie. So I think the reason that they used Coke so much was because obviously Coke is the beverage choice for McDonald's, and I think GSF and okay, spoilers into this. As we said, R.J. Lewis produced McDonald's movies. R.J. Lewis really, really, really wanted to do cross promotion for McDonald's. So much so that he came to McDonald's and he said, "I'm gonna do this movie, and maybe you can sell it in your stores. Some proceeds of this will go to Ronald McDonald House, and in fact, I think every Ronald McDonald House was given copies of the movie. McDonald's didn't say they were gonna fund it, and according to R.J. Lewis, McDonald's didn't fund a penny of this movie. But someone did over half of the funding for the movie. That was GSF, Golden State Foods, who's only it was a beef supplier whose only client at that time was McDonald's. And we know that GSF was a part of this because that will come later. But back to where we were, they're driving. They leave the black site. They don't know they got Mac. Eric's sipping on a Coke with a straw. No one drinks Coke. No one drinks a single can of Coke without a straw in this movie.
That's true.
Every single one has to have a straw in it. Because they showed the straw earlier when he was in the rocks.
Yeah, yep.
So Mac's like, you know what? The kid don't care. I'm just gonna be sipping on this. And Eric gets mad. he's like, Michael, why'd you drink the Coke? Mm-hmm. And the mom's like, Michael, why'd you drink that Coke? And Michael, the sane one, is like, I'm sitting right next to you. How could I have possibly drank that Coke without you even seeing me do it? I don't care that you're driving, and you clearly would have seen me move about to get that Coke. I didn't get that Coke. Kids in the back. They get to where they need to get to, the house. I don't know where in California they are. They don't make that clear. I don't know if they're down south towards LA, if they're up in like Sacramento. It kind of seems like maybe up north.
Where was Encino, man? What like, you know,
Encino?
Fraser, yeah. Just cut that part out. I didn't realize Encino. Hey, where was the movie Cincinnati Man filmed? Like,
No, so apparently it does say they're near Los Angeles. So I guess they're like maybe up in the hills.
okay.
It's a very hilly area they're up in. It felt kind of temperate. That's why I thought it may be further up north. Everyone's wowed by the house. It's a nice little ranch. Mom specifically says, look, no stairs, because we got a kid with spina bifida. R.J. Lewis wanted a kid with a disability to be the protagonist. Getting into an early criticism of the movie, while it's great that they actually got a child with spina bifida to play a person in a wheelchair. Outside of the things that occur, there's no reason for him to be disabled. In fact, it's kind of almost a hindrance of the plot sometimes, because there's things that he wants to be able to do that he can't. And as a result, things like kind of just occur to him that he's just like, I can't do anything about, because I can't just like jump in and out easily out of the bed or do anything like that. And things like the chase scene that we described earlier could have just been replaced with a kid on a skateboard or on a bike. Mm-hmm. And I do like the fact that it's normalized, that nobody makes fun of him because he's in a wheelchair.
Right.
Everyone is very much like, he's just another person. He's just like any of us. He just happens to be in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. But you would almost think that it was done to serve a purpose, but I don't think the movie serves the purpose of it.
It could also just be like a decision, like to your point, like because you're right, in the movie itself, no one, it's not, which is awesome. Like no one, because typically I feel like, especially around that time, if you saw a movie where one of the main characters, the protagonist, was a kid in the wheelchair, it almost kind of becomes like the central thing of the movie. Like people make fun of him and whatnot, and it's like very just, it's weird and kind of uncomfortable in a way. But in this movie, again, to echo what you're saying, like they never. It's not, it's so normalized, which is kind of cool, just how seamless it is, and maybe that's kind of like also not only within the movie but just in general. Maybe what R.J. Lewis kind of wanted to do was just kind of like in the film itself, like you're right, there is no like real reason for him to be, so maybe that's part of the normalization, and that there is this thing that happens, or maybe he just really wanted to do it for that chase scene because he didn't want to use a bike. Or he didn't want to use a skateboard.
But we also have to remember that they threw away the script before they got So
before they got a director?
So they threw away the script before they got the director. And upon getting the director, said, we threw the script out. You need to rewrite a script. But you also need to film this movie. So I believe I told you earlier that it was like a day-by-day thing that he was writing the script as they were doing the movie.
Which I just want to say, like when me and Dane were talking about this movie, because I think he watched it. You took the whole thing at once, and I watched it. I split up into a couple chunks, but like we were sending voice notes back and forth talking about it, and I remember even just saying like it feels like this movie was being made day by day. It felt like they didn't know, like they were just trying to remember, like there was just this one person who had like one of those tiny little detective notebooks. Oh, where'd you see it last night, Shane? Like he just kind of said, yesterday some aliens got sucked into a vacuum in a spaceship, and he said, well, today an alien's gonna run out of a building. And it was just strung together by the most random scenes. Mm-hmm. So it's so interesting that like that actually is what was happening. So he's writing the movie and he's filming at the same time.
So he was filming, but so technically, I guess supposedly he actually wrote it right before filming, but like he had like a weekend and a half or something like this to write this movie.
Okay.
So they already had the production crew, they had the actors. They had everything. They just didn't have a script because they threw the script out. I'd love to see what that original Mac and Me script was, because what we got was a treasure. I can't imagine what they threw out. So we get to the house. We meet what might be. I feel like a collection of people come up to be the tritagonist, but in this case, I do think the true tritagonist of this movie is Debbie, little girl who we find out is their next door neighbor. Probably could have told that immediately. But she's across the street from their house, not next door. She's across the street in what looks like a complete drop-off. I don't know how that street is made. Yeah. There is a sidewalk, and then there is just nothing.
Like, so...
And Debbie is dressed up like a Native American and sitting inside of a teepee. She greets them. They say, hey, they go inside. Mac jumps out the van. She looks dead at Mac. It's like, oh, they got some weird pets here or something. It's kind of whatever. Mac apparently goes into the house. Mac has decided that he understands where he was, I guess, which was that black site, and that he is now away from that black site by courtesy of this van and the people inside of it. He now has decided he is going to hang around this house, but not interact with these people whatsoever.
And it's not only that he does not interact with them directly, but he creates so much. He's so mischievous. Like, he's actively trying to make their life worse during this time, which is so strange.
It's very strange.
It's so, like, because these people did nothing to him. It's not like they took him captive. He got in their car, and they were unbeknownst to them, they're just going along with their original plan. And I don't know if it's like some kind of, it was just like them being vindictive, like Mac being vindictive or something like that. But it's bad.
So everyone's kind of just getting ready for the night. And the first thing that happens is he's just kind of chilling. Yeah, he looks at he pulls out a picture, and it turns out that there's a lot of inference. He's looking at a picture of his family, and it's his mother, it's his brother, it's himself, and it's also I'm getting some more inference here. Do you think he was always in a wheelchair in the movie?
I assume so. Oh, what are you getting at? What is happening there?
Do you think the dad may have had a car accident that caused him to have that the dad died and Eric got got paralyzed? Because we're shown a dad.
Yeah.
Clearly there's no dad. They don't, I mean, it could be that they got a divorce. No one knows, right? They don't say what happened to this dad. But it's inferred that the dad is no longer around in a way that says that like he might be dead. But the reason I say that is because they're all in a car, and they're in a car that's not that van.
Right.
And he's just in a seat. He's not in like the wheelchair, but of course if you're not in that van, he probably would just be in a seat.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, because it's like a convertible though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like a convertible.
So guys, so sorry. I feel like since we kind of got to that topic, if you don't mind, just like tackling this now, because you brought up. I think he has to be dead, and jumping ahead here,
yes,
it's because what we find out is like Damon mentioned before. He said the mom hadn't worked in 10 years. Okay, 10 years.
Oh, it says following the loss of her husband.
Oh,
but that's the plot. I don't know. Like, I mean, we just pulled that off of Wikipedia. Could Wikipedia also be inferring? It's hard to tell, but it does say loss of.
That's fair. I mean, but like, it would just because we were both talking about this. Like, it doesn't make sense. They're moving from Indiana. Oh, sorry, they moved from Illinois.
No, they say Chicago. No, they say Illinois.
Yeah,
but then like things are hinted at that it's Chicago that they're leaving from.
And like they were like I know they're Bears fans and whatnot, but also like you can find Bengals fans and like not like in the city in Chicago. I'm just like basically like at the end of the day, like they're still moving from Illinois to California, which like cost of living. I would bet, I don't know for sure, but I would bet the cost of living, there was a disparity in the cost of living between Illinois and California maybe back then. You're moving your family out there to where you got this big, and she even says it as they pull in, 3-car garage. It's like a giant ranch, basically. And you find out that she works at a Sears. She works at a Sears.
But it is Sears in 1988. I'm just saying. Like, it is it's 1988. The housing, much different.
I want that 1988 Sears money then.
But she also is, I mean, Sears. We're talking like, I think either that year or like within the 80s, they created the Discover card. Had one of the first, like, technically internet websites, truly more of an intranet website, and like SearsNet. They were still expanding at that time. I think they were about to like purchase Kmart. Sears was big in 1988, and I still don't think she was just like a normal like associate. As we see towards like when she's shown in the store, it does appear that she might be a manager of a department.
And that's awesome. However, it's California.
But it's
and
California.
and they just bought a house. Like, bought a house, though.
It's California.
Like, you bought a
we were
house.
talking about, though. Like, the cost of living is higher, but also her wages would have been higher.
The wages would have been higher, but, like, I don't know, unless...
Like, we look at it today, and we're like, yeah, it would be hard. You wouldn't be able to live off of a Sears. Like, I almost don't think the person that owns Sears could live in California right now.
Probably not.
But
like, it's expensive.
Back then, you probably could have. Especially if you're not, like, directly in Los Angeles. And maybe you live out in, like Rancho Cordova or Rio or something like that. Like, I want to say when I was first watching it and they took her to Sears, I was like, what job could she have at Sears that could possibly do that? But then I thought more about it, and I'm thinking, like, this is 1988. It's like, it's pre credit score checks, a crazy house market. So much so, I was watching some, like, commercials from, like, the late 90s yesterday. There was a commercial where these people said, like, they were getting houses. They were like, yeah, this house, like, they were, like, foreclosed houses. And they're like, without foreclosure, this house would have been $54,000, but we got it for $12,000. And I was like, it was, like, 98. So imagine 1988.
And you still, like, I would still think to myself, like, location and what, and all this is to say, it's not to, like, in no way diminish her capacity to be able to take care of her children or family that way. It's just like and I say this having worked as an assistant manager for a retail company when I got out of college, and, like, even if I was very low end, like, even if I was making 3 times what I was making, I feel like I still wouldn't even have been able to afford a house in a decent neighborhood in Cincinnati, like, let alone move out to California and really go and buy a house. And like, what I'm getting at is ultimately, like, I wondered if the father had passed, and then there was, like, some, like, life insurance policy,
probably some life insurance going
payout,
on, yeah,
and something like that,
but
just because
she still wouldn't, like, even upon, like, getting that money and moving out there, she'd still have to be able to afford the place. So yeah. I mean, like, you could have probably, depending on it, I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of true crime podcasts, and there's people who put a lot. I mean, who knows? Maybe he had like a $1 million policy.
Yeah.
But I mean, she was job searching and somehow got a job out in California, which makes me think that she probably get picked, even if she took a 10-year pause, whatever she was doing before. It seemed to give her enough, like, of a resume. And somebody's like, come on out here to California. We need to run this Sears. Speaking of, because I will probably forget. When they go back to the Sears during the chase, she's going up the escalator with, like, some guy. She says, like, I guess, like, banter. She, like, turns to him. She's like, oh, so what do you do in lingerie?
Yeah.
And it's clearly he's like another manager. Yeah. Like, it's a manager. Why is a man the manager of lingerie? But okay. Oh man, we kind of jumped ahead, but that so Mac sees the picture and he sees that they were a family. And he's like, man, I miss my family. Time to start messing up some stuff. So he sees that Eric gets this, like, RC truck and starts kind of playing with it. And then he says, you know what, I'm just going to, like, use my nebulous Mac powers to make this thing move on its own. And Eric's like, what the heck is going on here? That's kind of weird. And then this dude, one of the movers pops in with a TV, a good old 14-inch. And he's like, hey kid, mom told me to bring this in here for you. You want me to set it up for you? And Eric gets a little defensive. He's like, I can do it myself. Yeah. I'm in a wheelchair, don't mean I can't set up a TV. He's like, all right, kid, whatever. He just puts it down on, like, a box or whatever. And it isn't plugged in. All of a sudden, it turns on because Mac's using his nebulous Mac powers, which I have to assume are electric-based. I don't know why he has electric base powers, but they have to be. So the TV turns on by itself. Eric's like, what is going on here? He's holding the cord. He's looking at it. He's like, this is crazy. Somehow mom comes in with a whole complete sandwich, which I guess maybe they like had like a cooler with some food in it or something.
It was like clickless before there was like
before. It was a Mac. It looked like a deli grade sandwich. That bad boy was looking good. And
Tuna, yeah. Crust cut off.
She comes in. She's like, hey, you got a sandwich for you. And the TVs come off. Eric's like, look at the TV. And she's like, cool. You got that. So what am I supposed to be looking at? He said, it was just on. She's like, all right, well, clearly you're already starting to go crazy. But whatever, eat this sandwich. I'm head on out. Mac's not done, though. Mac decides, you all are asleep, so I'm going to turn your living room into the Serengeti. And proceeds to, I guess, pull every weed, stick, stone, and grass he could possibly get into this house to make it look like an African safari. And then takes a power saw that he saw, like a circular saw he saw Michael using, and cuts a triangle in the front door.
Yeah.
And then takes an electric drill they had and just drills holes into the wall.
And when he's doing this, I think there's even a shot where he's drilling the hole into the wall, and he's dangerously close to being able to hurt someone. If you think about like if Eric was just so happened to be on the other side of the wall when he drilled that through that hole in the wall, he would have gone through that kid's skull. Like, and he's just very careless with it. What frustrated me about that scene is like when the mom wakes up and their brother wakes up. Again, I need you to remember what Dame said. Mac basically made their living room, their home, look like an African safari. And he's not kidding. Like, literally, he uprooted trees and he brought these into the house. And he made it look like almost, or, you know, better, let's just be a little bit tamer with it. We can say Central Park. Dude, he just turned it into this park in their home. And the mom looks at Eric and gets frustrated, essentially accusing him of having done this. We said it 1,000 times. This kid's in a wheelchair. Why is it that you would automatically defer to that option as far as how this mess came about?
And I want to also explain this house, because the way the house is set up is it's a ranch house, which I always thought that a ranch meant that it was like a certain like width and length, but I think a ranch just means single floor plan, because the way that it's set up is that the living room, dining room, and kitchen are open floor, which is pretty progressive for 1988, like California housing. Like, people are only looking at open floor plans like today. Once you kind of enter the house, off to the left, there's the start of a hallway, and you can tell that the hallway is like L-shaped, and along that L shape are essentially the 3 bedrooms, and the very first bedroom is Michael's. The second is Eric's. They're connected via bathroom, and then the mom's, and I'm assuming she probably has like a master bathroom in her bed. So somehow Mac does all of this, and Eric is the one that hears it and wakes up. Not the other two. That, especially Michael, who was like basically as close to action as possible.
Yeah.
But we get it. He's a teenager in the 80s. Was just so teenagery. He's up all late at night and he sleeps all day. I don't know what time frame this is. I'm assuming it's summer because nobody goes to school.
Yeah.
The mom should have heard it too. Clearly no one hears it somehow but Eric, who comes out, gets blamed for it, despite being in a wheelchair, despite being no place he's ever been before. Clearly does not have the strength to uproot trees, pull all that stuff in here as quiet as a church mouse somehow, and drill holes in the wall. And the drill hole, the hole drilling didn't even happen until he woke up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Michael hears it next. Michael's the first to be like, "What did you do?" Then the mom comes in and starts her mess up.
Right.
Eric's like, "I didn't do it, Mom. I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it." She's not listening. "I didn't do it. What do you want me to say?" She flips out and finally says, "I didn't want you to say anything," and then just walks back off. Michael's like, "Dude, man, this is crazy." Yeah. Walks back off. Eric says, "You know what? I think I'm going to go exploring." So he goes out the open back door because that back door stays open. I think every time they show it, that back door is open. Clearly, Mac is the one going in and out and opening the door, but the door stays open. So he goes outside. I think you said you thought he saw Mac, which is why he continued in the direction that he went. I don't recall him seeing Mac. It just looked like he just was like, some crazy stuff, man. I can't believe this happened. I'm just going to keep going. So he wheels himself into the backyard. Now, earlier, Michael asked about the backyard. And I think his mom says, like, only the first 20 feet of it or so is ours. And you can see that there is a fence. And why this fence has a open gate to it, I don't know, but it does. Debbie's outside. That's right, Debbie is outside, and she happens to be the one that says she saw Matt go in that direction. So Eric just continues going. He continues and he continues, and as we said, in the front of their house, across the street, was a drop-off. Well, it turns out the backside of their house is also a drop-off, because very shortly into his stroll back there, he proceeds to start rolling downhill at a rate that he cannot handle. He goes to stop his wheelchair with the brake, but the brake just snaps
in his hand.
So he is going.
They basically just have a house on a floating piece of rock.
Pretty much. That is the most precipitous situation I've ever seen for housing. Turns out there's like a ravine in their backyard. And he goes plummeting down.
Surprise. Don't you just hate when you find out that there's a hidden ravine? I'm sorry, I shouldn't use the word hidden because it wasn't hidden at all.
It was not hidden. And he goes. I can't say tumbling because he does not tumble.
He doesn't.
He goes flying off, and somehow, even though he was going fast, he goes flying off, and instead of just careening so fast that he just hits the other side of that ravine, he just somehow stops directly in the middle, like a cartoon character, and drops straight down.
Oh man!
And somehow has been strapped into his wheelchair, because him and that wheelchair do not separate like a normal situation.
There's literally a shot, like a bird's eye view of Eric falling into this giant, this like pond or whatever you want to call it, and he is like he and the wheelchair are one. I don't know if he was like holding on to it or whatnot, but like he does not separate from it. He like and again he doesn't tumble, so it's not like a head over heels type of thing.
Nope,
it's just
straight down.
It's almost kind of like God or like a Titan from like Attack on Titan just picked him up in that wheelchair and just slowly dunked him into the water. And then they sped it up like 3 times speed.
I don't know how to explain.
But I love what follows in that like superimposed shot of Mac. So like when Eric hits the water, the next thing is like a reaction shot from Mac. But it's strange because his body, you see him from behind and you just see his upper body just sort of like yank up from the ground, right? Like think somebody in a movie, you know, jolting awake from a nightmare. It's kind of like how Mac gets up. But it's not a shot from behind with that whole thing kind of happening in front of him. It you can tell that there was like a green or blue screen in front of that or something. and then they just like superimpose the shot of Eric falling into the ravine. And so what the result is like this very cartoony shot, which almost kind of like didn't need to be. But it just goes to show you that, hey, Mac sees that Eric fell into the water. Eric's screaming for help. Who's going to save him? And so just alluding very well visually that Mac is going to go in here and save this kid's life.
Debbie's been screaming the entire time. Debbie is screaming her head off. I'm surprised only Eric's family came out because she's screaming bloody murder. Mac dives in. Mac transports the boy out of the water, wheelchair in tow because he is strapped to that wheelchair. Family sees him and they're like, "What did you do? Why?" And he's just like, "I didn't know." Did you see him? Did you see it? And they're like, "Okay."
The creature, Mom. Did you see it?
And so a family doctor comes, I guess, to see the boy.
Good God.
They don't go to a hospital or anything like that. He just shows up along with the ambulance and stuff, and
as they did back in the day,
proceeds to sedate Eric.
Mm-hmm.
He gives him a pill to sedate him because he thinks that he might be suicidal. I can't tell if he thinks he's suicidal or if he thinks he's crazy. It's one of the two, but he just decides to sedate him just in case.
Might be both.
It could be. He's just like, this boy needs to be sedated. Yeah. So I'm gonna give him these pills I pulled out of my pocket, not in the pill bottle or anything like that.
I hate that part. Man. I hate that part. Like, it's weird enough that he excused his mom and brother before having this furthering the discussion with Eric. But then to also pull a pill out, it is not even in a bottle. It's not even wrapped up in a napkin. It's just, he just reaches into his coat pocket and produces a pill.
Mm-hmm. And then we're greeted with Debbie's sister Courtney, who works at McDonald's.
Yes.
And she's got to go to McDonald's, so she's got to take Debbie and take her back home. But she's glad to see that he's okay, even after he fell like 100 feet into the ravine. Michael meets Courtney. They kind of have that thing that happens always in kid movies, where there's always got to be like some teens, like older teen, like brother sisters, and they just immediately boom.
Wasn't the Goonies like that?
Goonies, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It just happens. That it happens. So happens in this movie too. Family is worried about Eric. Eric's like, but you gotta understand, there's this little creature dude. He's messing his stuff up. So he devises a plan to capture the dude, and it involves coke. He somehow determines through like understanding that his coke was missing in the van, and his coke was missing with a sandwich meal, that the little creature likes coke. Mac likes him some coke. So he, instead of Reese's Pieces this time, it is Coca-Cola. He puts some cups of Coca-Cola with straws all over the place. And then him and Debbie get into his closet. He's placed his favorite him-sized teddy bear in his bed to replicate him. And Mac falls for it just like that. Now you're thinking maybe like, what are they planning on doing? Debbie wonders the same thing. She's like, what's his name from Clarissa Explains It All? Sam. He always came in through the window. Because that's how she comes in, right? She doesn't, like, she's just at the window and then she just crawls her way in. And she's just like, I'm a part of this now.
Mm-hmm.
But they decide they're going to suck him up in a vacuum.
Yes.
So once again, the vacuum is coming into play.
Yes.
Only this time it's knowingly coming into play, despite the fact there is no way that Eric could have known that a vacuum had been used to suck them up before
and bring them to Earth.
So he has no way of knowing that these things can somehow stretch and liquefy themselves.
No, absolutely not. That we were talking about this, and we were like, that would be the equivalent of like, you're in your house, and a raccoon enters your house, and you're like, damn, I gotta get this raccoon out. You know what? I got this plan. I'm gonna set a trap for this raccoon. Ultimately, how I'm gonna catch it? Well, I do have a vacuum cleaner, right? That's that raccoon I just said that you're picturing now. You would have never thought to yourself that I can suck this raccoon in through a tiny tube into a vacuum cleaner, but Eric did.
Eric knew. Eric, you know what? I gotta give Eric his credit. He's ahead of his time. He knew what he was about.
Yeah.
And he knew he could suck that creature up into that vacuum, proceeds to suck him up into that vacuum, and proceeds to almost get Debbie killed.
Yes.
Because Debbie had to strap herself to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've sucked him up. Debbie immediately, it's like something's up. Sparks go flying off, and then it proceeds to drag her away. Eric is like, no, so he grabs Debbie, and the pair get dragged into the living room. Meanwhile, he's screaming for Michael because mom's at work. She's got her late shift at Sears to do, and Michael gets out of his room. He's like, what is going on? Why are you getting dragged? They're like, the thing is in the thing. The vacuum with Debbie attached proceeds to go up a wall, go across the ceiling, go across the ceiling again, go to the opposite wall, and then slam down that wall. And you're like, he just got her killed because they decided to use a doll to represent her in a period where they clearly showed her smack into the ground, looking like her legs shattered.
Breaking her legs. They literally snapped, and what you would have assumed snapped in opposite directions. Okay? And this is a 10-year-old girl, like, strapped to a vacuum cleaner that's dragging her around. And something, did she come into the window? Did she come into this plane already wearing that helmet, or
no? She had she got the helmet inside the.
Okay, so they did. So somehow they knew to take that as a precaution.
Yeah.
Because if she didn't have that helmet, I just want you to know that scene he just described, how wild it is. She would have died. She would have suffered like severe brain trauma. Like that. This thing was literally yanking her around the living room.
Mm-hmm. So they get Mac out. Mac looks like he's dying for some reason. I guess he used too much of his power.
Also, maybe also some of the dust.
Maybe the dust also.
Yeah.
He got very dried out. He's kind of laid out. So they give him some coke to rejuvenate him. Mom gets home, but Mac dips out before Mom shows up. She's still kind of like, I'm not like. Michael's now like, I seen the thing. Eric wasn't lying. Eric's not trying to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's not lying. She still doesn't. She doesn't believe it somehow. So we get to the next day. Mac is like, you know what? We just had a heck of an adventure out there, guys. But you gave me that coke willingly, so we're friends now.
Yeah.
And fixes everything that he did. Completely, I guess he fixed the vacuum. He took all the Serengeti stuff out the house. He cleaned up the house. He somehow replaced every drilled hole he made. Mm-hmm. And replace that triangle he cut through the door as if that thing never existed in the first place. Leaves a newspaper clipping of a horse and an ad for some furniture.
It wasn't like a Valvoline ad too in there.
And some straws made to look like flowers.
Yeah.
This whole time, we haven't actually explained a very kind of pivotal thing. So we know there's the E.T. phone home. E.T. phone home.
Yeah.
This movie has that too, but there's no phoning home because everybody's on the planet that they need to be on.
Right.
So instead, they communicate long distances by cupping their hands together like they're doing the Kamehameha, but straight up to the sky, and then they whistle through it somehow, and that gives them mental imagery of what's going on in each other's lives. the mom and Mac have been doing this kind of since Mac got separated.
Yeah.
So if we've been watching, we know that the straws are representing windmills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the horses were supposed to. I still don't understand that part. Oh no, the horses were horses. When they're driving later, the horse. When they're driving to go get the family, they do run across those horses.
The horses are horses.
Makes sense when you think about it. But
It got me.
Mom comes out. She's like, "Thanks, guys. You were messing with me out there. I knew this was all just some weird prank because you didn't want to live out in California or whatever." And you're like, "Mom, do the two of us look like we would do this?" Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Okay, clearly the mysterious alien creature, MAC, Mac.
Mind blown, right?
Clearly he must exist now." But she's like, I gotta go to work. Now, Debbie has invited Eric to a special gathering. She's invited him to a birthday party. And I'm going to be honest. Andrew, I'm going to need you to look up Mac and me birthday scene. Because I want you to see just what you're about to talk about. Now, before you play it, we got to get up to it. Michael, I guess, is just going to stay at home. Actually, I don't know what Michael is up to. But for some reason, he cannot stay and watch Eric. Instead, Debbie's mother is supposed to watch Eric, but she's taking him to a birthday party for one of Debbie's good friends.
At McDonald's.
You didn't know it was going to be at McDonald's.
No.
You had no clue. You're like,
who
they're just going off.
Who would have guessed?
But they're like, we're friends with Mac now. Now, they recognize that Mac is sad because they tried to give him some Coke. And he said, "Nah, I'm good." They're like, "Oh man, but he loves Coke." He supposed to be saying, "Wait, nah, I'm good, man. I'm actually been sitting here watching this movie on Turner Classic Movies. I'm pretty sad right now. But, I've been thinking about my family." So
it actually was a Turner Classic movie.
So I'm not feeling what y'all got.
He comes to Earth and immediately he's like, "I need to watch some like John Wayne films."
So he's pretty sad. Eric kind of figures out that it's about his family. But they got to leave because right before the mom was about to leave for work, turns out that the Alphabet Boys are back and they somehow tracked Ironhide to California. Yep. And they're like, "All right, man, like you guys seen anything weird? Any aliens? Mysterious alien creatures? Max?" And they're like, "No. Sorry." They leave. Michael and the mom leave. Old Gray Suit gets in the car. He's like, "It's here." Clearly they were lying. Yeah. It's here. We did not tell you how we tracked this thing. No, we know it's here. So Eric can see that they're clearly just sitting outside. Because they are not hiding themselves whatsoever.
And Eric also is not even trying to hide the fact that he's looking at them through the window. Like
just looking at them.
Would typically what I would kind of honestly made me mad is the blinds are already turned open, but then he has his fingers and he's yanking it down, dude. Like imagine your blinds. You got 35 blinds, and he's like 15 up. And they're all open, so you can clearly see outside, but he's just yanking that down to the windowsill. And it's like, well, what are you doing, dude?
I mean, he's on lookout. And he understands he's got to get Mac out of there.
You need to be a little bit more discreet.
I guess so, because he decides that he needs to put Mac in the life-size teddy bear that he has.
As discreet as it gets.
And he might as well have not done it. Because... they do not fall for this trick whatsoever.
And he does it because he knows he actually says he can't leave Mac there, because if they leave him there, the men in taupe will come in and take Mac. But when he puts him into the teddy bear suit and they leave to the McDonald's birthday party, the men in taupe don't even look in the house. They immediately turn the car.
There's
and they follow
no fate.
them
Just like,
at all.
Follow them. So they follow very closely. They are not hiding that they are following this. Like, as mom is changing lanes, they're changing lanes. So they get to this McDonald's, and I'm going to tell you right now, when I first saw this, I thought to myself, oh, that's pretty like 80s of them to have like some dancing teens outside, and maybe a little like, electric, breaking two electric boogaloo going on outside. Gotta have a little dance scene. They go inside the McDonald's, and everything seems perfectly normal, even though there's a birthday party going on. Debbie proceeds to give the gift. Now, the teddy bear is there, and Debbie's mom was like, what is up with this teddy bear? Because it ain't sitting still. Despite Debbie actively saying out loud, not quiet at all, stay still. Stop moving. Eric says, oh, it's one of those robotic teddy bears that exist in 1988. And mom's like, robotic bears in 1988? I don't know what that's about. But didn't you also say you've had this thing for like a long time? It's like, yeah. Like, I meant new because like we got some new microchips put in it. Yeah. That's why it's moving so much. Yeah. Moving like it's a real boy, basically, So the teddy bear's there, and some music starts. And Debbie says, I'm going to dance with the teddy bear because we need to, clearly we know we were being followed. So we need to really make it look like this teddy bear is a moving robot boy and not a moving alien child. So if you will, Andrew, you can start playing that. So as you can see, breaking, getting it down. My man Rerun is out here pop locking, getting in. Everyone, Cyndi Lauper's back there breaking down. Got Waldo up here up front. Oh my god, I was gonna say Waldo. Those shoes little tag team, little tag move here. Lord. Old coiffed here, and the kids are out here. They don't know what's going on. They just know some music's happening. Enter Debbie, her mom, Eric. Enter the man in taupe. There you go. So going into McDonald's, and it's a classic McDonald's. That is just that brings back memories. Look at that. So Ronald McDonald is here. Ronald McDonald ain't supposed to be here. McDonald's told RJ to not put Ronald McDonald in this movie. He said, "No, I'm gonna put Ronald McDonald in this movie." And apparently, that's the Ronald McDonald. That's not a dude that's not like one of the like many dudes who play Ronald McDonald. Yeah. Like that's the dude who plays Ronald McDonald in all the commercials and stuff that were like as a child that we saw. So everyone's, they're like, this teddy bear is crazy, especially looking at them eyes, them demonic eyes.
I do want to point out there, like a few seconds ago, he did the first thing that really gave him away. He used his Stretch Armstrong powers to pull a drink away from another boy. And the look of astonishment on that boy's face is priceless.
He's also not sad anymore. He's no longer like, no, I don't need to. He's getting it. So everyone's like, what's up? Michael shows up. Yep. I can't remember why Michael decides he needs to come here. And then, here it is.
Oh, that part made me so mad.
So I want you to see. Yeah. There are tables. Tables and chairs. The football players are dancing. Yes, the football players are dancing. We just said that. The Washington Redskins players are dancing. The men in taupe. Now, tables, because she's like, ugh, the ballerinas are just like boring. Ronald McDonald's breaking it down in the back. Tables again. People are getting their dance on. No tables. Them tables gone.
Oh my
Full-
god! I didn't notice that the first time.
Everybody dancing.
Why does everyone know?
Everyone knows the
what to
exact
do?
dance moves to do. You're eventually going to see anti-gravity front flips from Mac. And then he is getting it in. Oh, breaking down. Sometimes he has the teddy bear eyes and sometimes he doesn't. At one point, you're going to see a dude that's outside of the place, but somehow, like, he's just doing backflips. It is crazy. Now, they're ready to capture. And we got some more men in taupe. Mac knows all the dances. I don't know. I guess he was watching a lot of Turner Classic Movies while we weren't paying attention. Because he knows. Look at him. He's getting it in. I don't know why they zoomed in on this little girl. Now, he doesn't have the teddy bear eyes. He's like, I got to get out of here. See ya. Those dudes are ready to beat Michael up.
Yeah. They're grabbing his arms pretty viciously, man.
They got their little raccoon trap, and teddy bears eyes are back. There's the Global State Foods truck.
Oh. Where's the dude doing backflips? You said
he's like earlier in the scene. You can barely see him, but you'll see like when they like show the glass, the McDonald's with the McDonald's logo on it. There's like a dude just doing like backflips. It's crazy. So now we're at the chase scene, which I guess you would say is the climax of the movie. Farron described it pretty well. It is a bunch of middle-aged men in gray and taupe, full sprint chasing in hard-bottom shoes. Yes. A boy in a wheelchair with a teddy bear alien on his lap.
Yeah.
He is going through backyards. They are not to be stopped. He's gone through someone's entire yard in a hill. And I got questions about this. How did he get back up into these hills? Because they went downhill into the city.
Yeah. He's basically like back around where they live, right? It kind of seems.
But he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the close-ups, you can tell are him. But then there are times where like it's the back and it's clearly some dude.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you can't do this.
And everybody and their mama is really trying to impede these dudes. They do not care.
I'm sorry. Can you pause and rewind that for a second? Can we just see something? The white car that almost hits them. Look at this.
White car.
It reverses out. It reverses out. It reversed out. Never mind. Okay. I thought it was like, how did it? There's no street.
Yeah, no, she was reversing out. They are full sprinting. Nobody is tired. They are just gone. And they keep this kid in their sight the entire time. More cars are just almost about to kill people and each other. They've caught up. They've caught up somehow. He was going downhill full speed. He's on a highway. And they are catching up to him. Now he's skitching. Skitching on the back of a truck. They've already, like, they're the T-1000. This is the Terminator chase scene. They do not stop. They're outspeeding the dude in the car that's behind them.
He's just throwing off all the clothes.
And now he's gotten himself to Sears. I don't know how this happened, but he got himself to Sears. And they were just moments. Just moments behind him. So much so they even knew, like, oh, this kid's going into Sears, clearly. So they go into Sears. Mom's asking that dude about lingerie. Pandemonium happens. Mac decides to use his Mac powers to mess with all the TVs and somehow lock the doors. Those dudes in the taupe do not care that door is locked because they immediately grab one of them TVs and smash that glass door, walk through it,
without hesitation,
continue running like T-1000. The only thing that stops him is the fact that the now third person driving this van, who is Courtney, is driving the van, catches up to them. Michael is in the slide door. Debbie is in the front. Michael grabs Mac from Eric. Eric is keeping up. And then he's like, all right. Reaches outside with the core strength of Hercules and scoops both Eric and his wheelchair
And Mac.
up and into the van.
Mac was still on his
No.
lap. What, Mac had
Mac already
come
got
in?
he picked up Mac first. So now they need to decide to go find the family. And that's why I'm like, clearly it can't be Area 51 because that'd be too far of a drive. Because they get there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And Mac, I don't know how Mac guides them because he can't speak English, but Mac guides them to where they need to be.
Yeah. They see the horses.
They see the horses because the horses are horses.
Yeah, I think they even see the Valvoline billboard.
See, okay. So following Mac's directions, they get themselves there. They see the horses because horses are horses. And they see the windmills and they're like, oh, the straws are windmills.
Yeah.
They've got a couple of cans of Coke. Mac's been, he's been splurging on the Coke a little bit. They get to a cave. And Michael's like, all right, guys, this cave might be dangerous. I'm going to go in there myself.
Uh-huh.
Not even Mac. I'm going to go in there myself. And at this point, I proceed to say, it'd be really funny if they were all dead. It's dark, but I thought it would be hilarious if it turned out they were all dead.
Because that's actually what it looks like.
It turns out that it's exactly what it looks like.
It, like they walk in.
Michael walks in, and there are 3 corpses, dusty and
Yes.
just laying on the ground.
Yes, eyes open.
Eyes open.
Eyes
It looks
wide
like it looks like the people that were inside the suits took the suits off, and they were just laying there.
Yeah.
And Michael's like, well, bring everybody else in and bring the Cokes. Because the Cokes worked on Mac, the Cokes must work on everybody else. So they bring the Cokes in, they get their straws,
Yeah.
because they got to have them straws, and they resuscitate these dead aliens back to life with Coca-Cola because they are indestructible. They
Yes.
cannot die.
Yes.
As long as Coca-Cola is around, they cannot die.
It kind of makes you wonder if that's their sustenance on Mars is Coca-Cola.
They do say that Eric says when he gives them the Coke after the vacuum incident, he says this must be what like they have on their planet. Like it must be similar to Coke.
No.
Because he likes it so much. It wasn't, this insanely addictive sugary drink might just be really good to an alien. Nope, it has to be similar to what they drink on their planet.
Oh my God.
So the dad gets up and again is a
We
walking
could
nightmare.
easily colonize Mars.
And they all get actually kind of scared of dad because they're like,
Yes.
he might kill somebody. He wakes up and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, this dude
6
might
was up.
kill somebody. But they wrangle him up and they get them into the van and they proceed to head. I don't know where they actually plan on going. We're getting out of here. The dad proceeds to then tie a knot in a tire iron.
Fascinating
He
display of
grabbed
strength.
Debbie and I actually thought he might snap her arm. Because
Yes. Yeah.
the way he grabbed her up, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
goodness. And as you like to say, then Debbie then proceeds to tell them to start doing Simon Says, and Michael then gives his famous line of,
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Actually, if we can, real quick, go back to something that Debbie says in the cave when introducing.
oh, that's right,
Introducing themselves. So again, if you will entertain me here, go back to the cave. All of the humans are meeting Mac's family. Debbie, before the family has even met Eric, and mind you, Eric has been Mac's bosom buddy this entire time, right? So you would think that they would be the ones that meet first. No, this is Debbie. Debbie walks up to the dad and she reaches out her hand. She says, "Hi, I'm Debbie. I live next door." There's no frame of reference to anything at all. That is how she introduces herself. These creatures are aliens. They've never been here before. They don't even know in reference to who she's even referring to. They haven't met Eric yet. But that's how she introduces herself. All right, cool. So in the van, they're getting frustrated because the dad and the mom, they cannot sit still. And so finally, Debbie has enough. She says, sit there and cross your arms and you don't move until I say it. And off camera, you hear Michael say, yeah, that's right, Debbie. Be the mommy. just be the mommy. He doesn't stop. He just keeps saying it. Like, and they don't show him. They just like show the car. And the audio is just, yeah, Debbie. Just be the mommy.
Be the mommy.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. It's like, what? What? And it's almost kind of like they were just, like Dame had said before, like that script was written pretty quickly. And it almost kind of seemed at certain points like they put them in this tiny little container and said, just do whatever, we'll see what sticks. And that stuck.
They recognize that they need to stop because they do plan on heading back toward, I don't know why they plan on heading back into town, but they decide they need to head back to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So they're headed back, but they need to make a pit stop first. They stop to get, I want to say they were going to get gas, but it's hard to tell. But they are going inside to get some stuff. They go into like a gas station, and everyone else is kind of chilling in the car. Another car pulls up, and 2 girls are in it. One girl hops out, and she goes into the same place that Courtney and Michael are in. And the other girl who's driving, she's chilling. She looks over in the van and proceeds to see like 4 aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And oddly enough, does not freak out. She's actually pretty chill. She's looking at them like, cool.
Yeah.
And then does the one time this happens in the movie, someone proceeds to drink out of a can without a straw. It looks like it's a Sprite can. But she proceeds to start drinking. The dad's like, bust through the fucking car window and snatches that can out of her hand. And now she is freaked out.
And she proceeds to get the fuck out fast.
Debbie comes out and she's like, you guys need to come out here because they're freaking out now. Michael and Courtney come out. The family is no longer in the car. They have proceeded to waddle themselves over to a supermarket.
Yes.
And everyone in the supermarket is like, nope, nope, you are nope,
no.
Security. So a security guy comes over after the manager has determined that he can't do anything about this.
Right.
Because
he determined that pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, because he was called by the cashier who was like, yeah, Come here and get the manager over. The manager's like, nope, security. The security comes over. The family is looking at this gigantic display of Coca-Cola that has been erected. And Michael comes in. At this point, Michael kind of becomes like the main character. Because,
yeah.
And this is where I was kind of saying that, like, the thing about Eric being in a wheelchair is it really, like, the plot dictates at this point that there needs to be someone who can get about very quickly. And Michael ends up having to fill that role. Like, everything from, like, when they find the family, all of those things could have been Eric, but they couldn't be Eric because of the wheelchair. So Michael's like, well, everybody calm down. They don't mean any harm. He's not explaining himself terribly well. He's trying to get out basically that they just want this Coca-Cola. The security guard's like, nah, man, we already called the cops. And so the cops come, and I guess because Michael is making a fuss and they don't want to touch the aliens because the alien has already pulled the revolver from the security guard's hand. And he now, Mac Dad has the revolver in his hand. He doesn't know what to do with it, but he's just got it in his hand. He's kind of waving it about like, oh, I mean, this dude's waving it about. I'm waving it about. The cops proceed to snatch up Michael and yank him, take him to the cop car.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's like, dudes, like they don't mean any harm. They don't mean any harm. All of the cops are now outside. I guess they thought now that they've got Michael, their job is because they are all outside.
Yeah.
Michael's in the back of the car. They've left the aliens in the store. Debbie, Courtney, and Eric are by the entrance. Like, let him go. What are you doing? Mac family comes out. And Mac dad, has somehow gotten himself a box of groceries.
Yes.
He's got a cardboard box.
Yep.
You can see 2 2-liter bottles and then 2 brown paper bags that have things in them. And he's just holding it like they just went shopping. And Mac dad and Mac mom's got Mac, and everybody, they're just like, hey man, yeah, we gonna have some fun tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just proceed to walk to the van because they think so. That's what we came in here in. That's what we're leaving in. Where's everybody else at?
Yeah.
We got what we needed. Let's go. And so, you remember that I told you that there was a scene.
Yes.
And it was this scene.
Yes.
Have you looked into it anymore?
I have not looked into it anymore.
This is going to be a treasure. Because that scene exists. It was a part of a Japanese copy of the film. But we have now since been able to see it. Andrew, I'm going to need you to look up one more thing for us. And it is Mac and Me extended scene.
Oh.
And it is going to be the one that says Mac and Me extended scene. Not that one. If you go to YouTube itself and look it up, it will give you some choices here. And it is going to be the second one. Now, Eric proceeds to... There's a Mexican standoff happening.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, what? Was that in the original?
No.
So...
You want to describe what you're seeing?
I wanted him to see this because I needed him to react to it before I explain what happens here. Okay, so as I said before, Mac family.
Who shot him?
Okay, so Mac family has walked to the van. The cops all see this and they're like, "Stop!" The Mac family is like, "I don't know what you're talking about," even though they've been kind of understanding English pretty well so far. But now they're all of a sudden, I don't know how to English. So
Yeah.
all the cops got their guns out. Eric decides he's finally like, it's back to me being main character time. And proceeds to will himself out because he thinks, I don't know what he thinks, but he decides to will himself out. In the scene, in the cut that every American who's seen this movie has seen, Eric reaches a certain distance before cops open fire. But the cops are firing at the van. The Mac family kind of just stands there, but sparks and explosions happen. The van explodes, and you see Eric like just kind of laid back in his wheelchair as this explosion happens. So you're like, and when they get to him, he's dead. Which at this point, I'm like, I was joking earlier, but now you're serious. They've killed this kid.
Yeah.
At this point, the men in taupe are there. They've got his mom.
Helicopter.
The cops let Michael out of the car. He looked like he was handcuffed. I don't know why he was handcuffed. Everyone goes running to Eric. They pull him out the wheelchair. They sit him down. Cops declare he's dead. Everyone's devastated. The fire opens up momentarily to show that this indestructible alien family is not dead, and they Terminator walk out of that fire over to the family. They kneel down. They put their hands out. And everyone else says, okay, I guess. So they put their hands out. And the Phoenix Rising, Eric is brought back to life. Now now it's been known that there was an alternate ending that was changed because in test filming or test what do you call that? Screening. In test screening, audiences were like, no. What they were saying no to was the fact that, as seen in even the original cut, when Eric takes off, there's a cop that chases him and trips over the front of the car. In the alternate scene, that cop tripped over the car and accidentally set his gun off when he landed, shooting Eric and killing him before the explosion ever happened. So even in the real cut that we all see, you're like, the cops killed this child because they're ones that opened fire.
Yeah.
Now, the issue at hand with that the alternate scene is that two things happen. They don't really happen simultaneously, but two things happen. One is that cop lands and his gun goes off. But also, Mac Dad points his gun. So it's supposed to kind of be left to with one of the two of them shot, but it's kind of clear that the cop's gun was the one that did the damage, even though it looks like a bullet is going into Eric instead of coming out of him, which would happen from being shot from behind.
Mac Dad shot, yeah.
Audiences didn't like seeing this kid get shot.
Yeah.
So they removed it. And it turned out that everyone thought that was just no longer around, but it turned out that it was in the Japanese cut of the film.
Oh man!
And some dude was like in Japan, and he found Mac and Me, and he found that was initially uploaded.
What a wild
So you think to yourself, he's back. Where can you go from there? Where can you possibly go from there? So the very next scene are the men in taupe again. But this time they're running into a building. When they get inside this building, you're like, oh, okay, this looks like City Hall. And we get a shot, kind of like a long shot into it. And there's this judge in the middle, and he starts rambling about the Constitution and stuff. And it turns out that it is a naturalization ceremony because everybody in there are becoming naturalized citizens. They do the shot where they go in and you see him, and then they do like a sweep around him, showing you all the people there. Toward the end of the sweeping shot, you proceed to see, dressed in their dandiest of suits and clothing, Mac and his family. The four of them have become naturalized citizens of the United States of America. Eric, Courtney, Debbie, Courtney's Debbie's mom, Eric's mom, Michael's mom, all there. The scientist is there. Both the scientists who didn't get those readings correct and tall, gray-haired scientists and the main two alphabet boys in taupe are all there. They're all celebrating. They're happy.
Where do you go from there?
Where do you go from there? Swoop. Pink Cadillac. Driving down the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who could be in this pink Cadillac? You see Eric. You see Debbie. You see Mac's sis. You see Mac. Mac mom and Mac dad are in the front. Mac dad's driving the car. Driving down the highway.
Yep.
Everyone's having a good time.
In a pink
Mac's
Cadillac.
chewing on some bubble gum.
Mm-hmm.
Riding in the pink Cadillac. Get an outside shot of the car as it's going around the bend. Mac blows a big bubble that says "We'll be back," hits this overpass, pop, movie ends.
And spoiler alert, they never came back.
Spoiler alert, no sequel.
they never came back.
The movie did so. I mean, like I said, it only did 6.4 mil for 13. So there was no way they were getting the funding they were going to ever need to get that movie to come back. But R.J. Lewis still thinks that one day it could happen. He was really he that's his baby. And you know what? We all have our babies. They may not be the best of things that we've ever done, but you know, they are things that we enjoyed when we created it.
Yeah.
For him, that was his passion, that was his thing. This movie got panned horribly. And I would like to give one of my favorite quotes. This quote comes from, I believe, Siskel Ebert himself. No, Gene Siskel. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Gene Siskel. And it is, "This is what happens when someone doesn't make a sequel to a hit movie fast enough." He gave it 1.5 stars.
Oh, okay.
Out of his
generous.
Yeah. Someone else with a lot of brass makes a ripoff that is even less satisfying. Mac and Me is a pale carbon copy of E.T. with an alien creature who looks like a cross between E.T. and Yoda. Hiding out at a suburban California house where only the kids and the government believe the creature really exists. Can the kid save the creature and get him reunited with his family? This may sound benign, but there are 2 problems. Dozens of brazen commercial plugs, and a couple of truly frightening scenes with a child in a wheelchair going over a cliff and nearly drowning, and later being pronounced dead after a fire. And he's 100% correct. That movie it is a McDonald's commercial. It is a 99-minute McDonald's commercial.
Yeah.
With Coke and Skittles added in. But also, I guess his belief was that, I guess the director and RJ's belief was that they knew they were making a copy of E.T.
Yeah.
In fact, R.J. Lewis himself literally says that, let me get his quote in here because it's just as goofy as all get out. Ronald McDonald is even more well known than Santa Claus. But that E.T. was close behind, and that the next generation needed an E.T. of their own. This movie is only 6 years older than E.T. The generation he's talking about had an E.T. of our own. It's called E.T. There didn't need to be a new one, but he wanted one. And I guess his belief was that if he just did enough things different, even though he knew he was making an E.T. clone, that people would be like, "Well, this isn't the E.T. clone." He put a child in a wheelchair and threw him off a cliff.
Yes.
Had him dashing downhill.
Yes.
At crazy speeds.
Yes.
Get shot.
Yes.
Set next to an explosion. Everything says that he, like, for wanting a child that was disabled, it's almost like the director was like, "Yeah, I'm not making disabled art." Because he constantly puts that child in danger.
Hardcore.
And it's insane. But it still has a charm to it.
Yes.
And I finished that movie and I was like, damn, I didn't hate this movie. I thought for sure that it was going to just be like how could somebody make this? But I watched through it all and I was like, it's in the so bad it's good category.
I feel like it's almost charming because it's so brazen. It just doesn't care about anything. And to your point about doing enough things different than E.T., that it just almost kind of seemed, I think we even talked about this before as well, where it just seemed like whatever pivotal point where there was overlap between Mac and Me and E.T., story-wise, they just decided we'll do the opposite. E.T.'s not going to go phone home and Mac's not gonna go home and go back to Mars to drink Coca-Cola out of sand dunes. What he's gonna do, he's gonna become a naturalized citizen of America. Okay, so you
This man was gonna pay taxes.
yes, yes, get a social security number.
They'll get a sweet 50s pink convertible.
Yes. And if you've seen Full House, and you know what the Full House opening, like,
It's
is,
that exactly.
It's that exact shot.
Oh my god!
It is that exact shot. It's the whatever happened to predictability. The new and it's Mac's family in a pink convertible, and then the bubblegum message pops up and it says, "We'll be back." I think that's the most brazen. That's the most courageous part of the movie to me. The fact that they could have possibly have edited all that together and then said,
"Yep, we're making."
Let's tell them that we'll be back.
This is getting greenlit, baby. This is gold. There is actually a scene in there that I didn't explain at all, and it makes so little sense, but it's hilarious. At some point between the vacuum scene and Mac, or the kid falling off into the ravine, Mac sees Eric and his mom leave for like a jog and proceeds to somehow get a hold of a yellow Power Wheels Jeep and start driving.
"Uh-huh."
And I don't know what his intent was, because it seemed like he was going to follow them, but he like veers off.
Okay, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you brought that up. I think it's the scene. I think I know what you're talking about. Is it the scene where he ends up stuck in a tree?
Yes. No, he's like, oh, I'm thinking that he wants to follow them. So he gets into this yellow Power Wheels Jeep. Every dog in the neighborhood starts chasing him. And I don't know why they're not chasing the family, but they are chasing him. One dog bites it as they go whipping around a corner. And then he veers off and proceeds to get stuck in a tree. And there's no
resolution at all.
And as you can see, he's not using his power. I mean, he used his powers to start it, but he's clearly...
Look at all of these dogs.
There's so many dogs.
There's like 15
this dog
dogs.
Bites it whipping around this corner. And he's just... And he somehow he can't catch up to them. But those dudes in the gray can catch up.
Yeah.
And then he just goes straight. So I'm like, what was he planning on doing? The amount of cars that get like brake damage in this movie is insane. Also, how did he get in the tree?
I don't know.
Like the thing just went down the hill.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because this scene confused me so much. And he just watches them walk away or run away.
Why does that scene exist?
Well, that scene served no. I was so confused. But then I don't know what it was, because I even remembered. I thought to myself, I was like, I have to talk to him about this. But then somehow, I think I was just so taken aback
very
by the
shortly
fact
after that, you get into the freaking dance scene and you're just like, soup.
Yeah.
I forgot about that scene.
I think it was also a little disorienting that there was no addressing it afterwards.
Yeah, because you think
so. I almost kind of told myself it didn't happen.
Because you're like, clearly there's got to be some resolution to this little like weird subplot they just created.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like something like the following. Like, hey, where's Mac? We need to go find him. Like, and he can be in the tree, and all these dogs. They literally never address it again.
Not at all. The dogs disappear. No one cares. There isn't even like a where's my Power Wheels? Like that could have just been like a little off statement that was made like later in the movie. Nope.
Half the neighborhood, dogs leaving.
And multiple people saw that little alien in that car.
Yeah.
Just whipping it in the neighborhood. No one says a thing.
Yeah.
This movie is a fever dream. But it's a fever dream in the best possible way. You tell yourself there's no way a movie like this exists. But not only did it exist, but it's existed for going on 36 years.
We're going almost 40 years. We're getting close to 40 years.
All because someone wanted to make a new ET, but also really, really wanted to cross promote with Mickey D's. But like I told you, it worked. Because very shortly after apparently hearing word that this Mac and Me movie was being made and put out, McDonald's, their gold medal, the girl they really wanted, Disney, came calling, and they started up their cross promotional agreement, which went from like 1988 to 2006. But because of that, GSF pulled out of funding, so there was no Mac and Me sequel. Yeah, and McDonald's didn't put Mac and Me in their stores because they were too busy putting out like Little Mermaid stuff. So ultimately, I guess it got McDonald's and Disney closer together, but it didn't do anything for RJ Lewis. But it exists. Other little fun facts: the McDonald's that was used for the dance scene is a known McDonald's used that doesn't actually exist as a real McDonald's, but is used specifically for making commercials.
Yeah, that's pretty
inside
cool.
of the City of Industry, California. As we know, GSF was the major funder, and that's it. That's Mac and Me, a movie that piqued both of our interest at completely different times in completely different ways, but brought us a movie that we will never forget.
Never forget. And I do want to say, if in the off chance ever somehow Paul Rudd, you are listening to this, or somebody who knows Paul Rudd is listening to this podcast, if you could let him know that it would mean so much to us if he could just hang out with us for an hour and 39 minutes and watch this movie with us. That would be
that'd be fantastic. Chris Evans too, because apparently they both love this movie.
Yes.
And I mean, that's a movie, man. That is just you just pull that out of nowhere. Like, hey man, you just want to watch Mac and Me? Like, what the heck is
I want to watch the Japanese version. I want to watch that. that explosion was also absurd. Dude, that explosion was crazy. Right? Like, it was, and we're not talking about just like a regular explosion. Sorry to go back to this, but like, it was a huge explosion.
I mean,
when that van blew up, it was crazy.
They were using like a little Michael Bay fund at that point, to make that explosion happen. That's probably where the other part of the 13 million.
Yeah,
went. It was
all that TNT.
The beginning and the beginning and the end with the explosion. And probably all the damage they did to all those cars and all those chases. There's way too many. Like, car scenes in this movie.
Dude, it's like I don't know why those car chases kind of were like reminiscent of like Steven Seagal movies to me.
Probably all the dated cars are in it, but
take us home.
Yeah, once again, this was Mac and Me, a movie that, in my opinion, is so bad it's good, and I can understand why both Mystery Science Theater 3000 took a swing at it, as well as multiple other movie review shows and podcasts. And it was about time that we did it. And once again, this is Damon.
And this is Farron. Also, you can check it out on Pluto TV if you're interested.
Oh yeah, if you're going to be trying to look at this movie, look at it on Pluto, because if you look at it at Netflix, it's the Mystery Science Theater version of it. Which, I mean, if you want to watch that as well, feel free to. But if you want to watch it without any commentary, watch it on Pluto. Did you say it was on Tubi as well, or was it just on Pluto?
I think it's just on Pluto.
Okay. So watch it on Pluto. This is the two of us, and this is Panharmonicon Studios presents a podcast.
Panharmonicon presents a podcast.